everybody I'd walk on set, it's like, who are you playing? It's like, oh, I'm an apprentice.
Yeah,
I don't, no name, just an occupation.
God already knows. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that Jesus interacts with him, especially coming up to the crucifixion, and the way that he handles their relationship.
Well, you're so likable on screen.
Oh, jeez, you mean it?
Yeah. Until just now.
Because you don't want it to be the Judas show from now on, and people just like laser focused on what Judas is doing, because there's so much more richness to the ministry of Jesus than the one who betrayed him. Guys, welcome back to my channel, and also welcome if you are new. I'm so grateful to have you all here. So my name is AkuaB, and here on this channel I cover all things faith, culture and encouragement, and as you can see from the title of today's video, I'm going to be reacting to a segment of the Come and See show for episode 8 of season 2 of The Chosen, between Dallas and the actor that plays Judas in The Chosen. But before I get straight into that, I just want to quickly encourage you to leave a like down below on today's video and comment something that you're enjoying from this interview, or just some of my deductions in general. And if you haven't already, then please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel before we go any further. And if you haven't already, then please make sure to turn on that notification bell if you've already subscribed, so that you'll never miss a new upload. And let's get into the verse for the video. Okay, so the verse for today's video comes from Joshua chapter 1, and we're going to be delving into verse 9. So it says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." So I've just chosen this verse because this is one of my baseline foundational verses, one of my strong encouragement verses. And I think this is just kind of a little pep talk from God, kind of like, have I not commanded you? So it's that kind of encouragement in us that you would give a young child, where it's like, I've already told you you could do this. I've already told you that I'm here to protect you and guide you and encourage you and uplift you. And why are you now doubting me that I've got you? So it says, have I not commanded you? So this is just so important, because we are all commanded. And one of the most unifying ways that we are commanded is to share the gospel. So this is just such an important verse, and it's just really a great encouragement to me every time I read it. So it goes on to say, be strong and courageous. And what does strength and courage mean? It means be bold, be independent sometimes, be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be proud, be, be bold and be unapologetic. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. These are fighting words. These are, don't back down. I've assigned you to do this, and you're going to be able to do it with my help. I am in you, and this is what I've commanded you to do. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So it's not just a thing of you've got this on your own. Like I said, it's like a child. You're encouraging them. I'm here for you. You can do this. I'm going to uplift you, encourage you. The Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So that's just saying that we've always got that constant power. We've always got that constant authority, not within ourselves, but God in us. So it's just so important to be able to lean on scripture like this to uplift us, to encourage us, and to make us look our fears straight in the eyes and to march forwards anyway, because we've got a God who is bold and strong and courageous, and we need to live with that power and that authority residing in us and be more conformed to Christ daily, because Christ is not weak. He is not apologetic about the ministry. He is very much doing what needs to be done to share the gospel and also to be a light in the darkness. So this verse is just so much encouragement to me. So if you have any more commentary or deductions, make sure to leave those down below in the comments, and let's get straight into today's reaction.
Luke Dimyan, you are Judas. Can you say it out loud? Do you feel comfortable saying it? Because we've been telling you not to say anything to anybody for so long.
I don't know, honestly.
I feel like this is such a moment where it could have been spoiled. Not because, it's a spoiler, because we all know what happens if we read our word, but it just reminds me of, I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays in the Marvel films, and he always spoils everything. Like, he leaves spoilers everywhere he goes. And if this was spoiled, honestly, it wouldn't have been such a great reveal, but I'm glad it wasn't spoiled and I didn't figure it out because a lot of people figured it out. But yeah, it was a great reveal.
It's become such a personal life of mine not to say it. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this now. Just being honest about it, because most everybody I'd walk on and say, like, who are you playing? It's like, oh, I'm an apprentice.
Yes,
I don't, no name, just an occupation.
Oh, that's so interesting, because he wouldn't have even been able to disclose it with the people that he worked with. That's so interesting. They kept it that secret.
Family and friends, like how many of them know?
I told them that I got cast in this show called The Chosen. Immediately my sister, like, lit up, and she was like, no way, I know what this show is. And I was like, wait, seriously? I didn't even know what the show was until this point. I said I wasn't allowed to say who I was, unless you could guess it. And my mom, in that moment, not even a second to her name, just turned to me and was like, it's Judas, isn't it? And she saw me and I was like, what?
That's disrespectful.
Yeah, your mom's like, he got cast in a role. Oh,
your own mum.
Greatest villain of all time whose name is used to describe betrayal and villainy. My son has arrived. Yeah.
It's synonymous to just absolute betrayal and hatred. It's just like, congrats, you did it.
Right. So you auditioned in season 1.
I did.
You came in for a day and you actually did a really nice job, but you weren't right for any of the roles that we were casting for. I just remembered, I like that guy. Like, I just remembered liking you. When you came back to audition for season 2, you auditioned for Philip.
I did.
Right. To be fair, Yoshi, who plays Philip, was kind of cast about 15 seconds into his audition. He just did.
Well, because he's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He embodies Philip. But you gave an extraordinary audition for Philip. My wife texted me in the middle of the audition and said, crazy idea, but I think Luke is Judas.
Wow.
And I thought, But it was via Zoom, and you were in your room, and all I could see behind you was a bunch of Nerf guns.
No.
He's clearly going to put me on blast in front of all the Jenkins fans.
So I'm like,
I like Nerf guns. I'm a huge child. I have Gundams and anime mangas and all that stuff. I have a literal lightsaber collection. Thank you, Dallas.
Well, here's what's funny about it, though, is I'm like, okay, clearly this guy's a nerd, which I kind of like, and my son's very much like that. But second thing is, you had the confidence to like do a Zoom audition in your room with all your nerd things behind you, and you're like, I don't care. And I just thought, that's something that I like about this, because I just felt like you had range. And so we had you read a scene as the apprentice, as Judas from episode 8. And Amanda was texting me the whole time, how's he doing? Because she was just convinced. She felt like God had like ordained it, that you were Judas. And
I know what to thank now.
Yes, 100%. Oh yeah, no, 100%. She had like she's had this happen about half a dozen times when it comes to casting of like, this person is going to play this role. And it's a role that is quite, it's a big deal. From the beginning of season 1, people were asking, how are they going to treat Judas? Who's Judas going to be? How are they going to write him? Is he going to be look like a typical bad guy? And what we tend to do is typically do things a little bit differently than what you expect. Not only because we think that's good drama, but also because I think it's more accurate. And to us, Judas is a real person who didn't wake up one morning and think, I'm going to become the most historically famous villain in the history of the world.
Yeah, I didn't read a Snidely Whiplash brochure. I was like, so this is how you do it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, because I think when you read the Bible, you see the detriment that Judas causes, and the way that he is so impactful in the crucifixion of Jesus and the persecution of him, and the way that his life ultimately ends. And I think coming from that perspective, and then you watch a show that is biblically based, there is a part of me that would think, yeah, they would just make him some, panto villain that comes out and he's just very conniving automatically. But if you think about it, that is not the way that we work as humans. And even the most diabolical humans, the people that have done such atrocities, rarely ever start off committing as such things. So it's quite interesting to see the way that they're going to do this character development, and I'm really, really pleased that they've done it this way. This is way more of a a more thought out and, slow burn instead of a car crash of drama, which is what I think you might expect from reading the Bible, because everything kind of happens at once. Everything's kind of one after the other. Whereas in The Chosen, I think they're going to do it and break it down more and insert more dialogue and different sides to Judas's character, rather than the not one-dimensional side that we see in the Bible, but the end of his life that is quite highlighted and overshadows the rest. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to see the more humane and, depth to his character in this TV show.
Yes, and I'm going to mustache twirling lessons.
Exactly.
And so Amanda has always had kind of a burden in her heart for this role and for whoever played it, and she's been like, it's so important for them to understand what this role represents, and that this was a human being who played a part of the greatest story ever told that can be so easily misunderstood. And so she was praying for you before you even auditioned, before she knew you. And when you came on, it was like, he's the guy. I'm curious, so that's from our perspective. I'm curious from your perspective, when you heard from me, I want you to audition for Judas. What do you think?
I remember getting excited because also I come from a Christian background. I'm Coptic Orthodox. So Christianity has been a huge part of my life for like a long time, and I'm very aware of its history. And I've always been kind of like a black sheep in my family, and a bit of how do I say, like I've always looked at things a bit differently. And so from a very like young age, playing a bit of a devil's advocate, I would look at things, and I would look at Judas differently than everyone else would, because everyone would just come to the conclusion of like, oh, he betrayed Jesus, the end,
Right.
We're good. That's as far as we need to know. But me, I was always interested, like, why? And the reasonings behind it's like, oh no, the devil tempted him, or it's like, oh, he was just greedy, the end, was never that fulfilling to me.
Right.
Especially as someone who loves characters and stories and these expansive worlds and stuff. So when I got Judas, I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little guilt, because the thing that I wanted most was being like literally handed to me on a silver platter.
Oh, interesting.
Reading the Bible and knowing the story, the character I was most interested in, it was almost like the character that I thought about the most. It felt like I felt guilt because this felt like the character I was preparing my entire life to play.
Right.
Not to over press my performance, please don't look into that. But I was excited because I love this guy. Genuinely. I don't see him as a villain other than more than like a Shakespearean tragedy. Because at the end of the day, he wouldn't have been a part of this group. He wouldn't have been fighting so hard to spread the words of Christ if he did not love and care for him.
Yes.
And to get to that point, that he eventually does betray him. Not only betray him, but he betrays all the other disciples, his brothers, that he's done miracles and he's traveled with many years like that. So when you gave it to me, you literally were like, so here's like the thing that you always wanted. The only way you like probably be like comfortable doing something like this.
And we see this in the same way. It's like we're treating Judas as a human being who, when we introduce him in this episode, it's sincere. The things you're saying are sincere. We talked a lot about this. Judas isn't spending the couple years leading up to his betrayal thinking about betrayal.
This is so interesting, the way that the actor, I'm not quite sure of his name, if it's repeated I'll make sure to correct myself, but the way that he has had such a rich history and depth with just being interested in the character of Judas and the person of him is so interesting, and the way that obviously Dallas, his wife, has had, such a key role in casting and things like that. It's just so interesting the way that God works. And I'm not sure of the background of a lot of these actors, whether they're Christian, whether they're people of faith or not. But it's quite interesting to hear this backstory and the way that he feels like this was like kind of handed to him, what he's always wanted, because, God works in such mysterious ways. I can't wait to hear the rest of this interview.
No, yeah.
He 100% is like, I'm in on this guy. I believe in this. I believe in this mission. This mission is calling to me. And and we're not going to talk about now.
Chills from episode 8. Chills.
Character, but you can bet that, of course, it's going to be a journey that is human. That makes sense. So you did the first few scenes, which we filmed in Utah, such as the scene in the bar with Josh. There's a couple scenes in there, so you did those, and you still hadn't watched the show yet.
I hadn't. Yes, it was just out of principle. I didn't.
No, I get it. You didn't want to be you wanted to be focused on your role and not being influenced by all the other
exactly.
things that you'd seen. Yeah.
And then I got back to Utah. My family sat me down. And we were like, oh, so we're binging. The entirety of the first season. Okay, here we go. We can wait. And we watched all 8 episodes of season 1 all the way to I believe 1:30 a.m.
Wow.
With my mom and my grandma.
Wow.
I need you to understand, like, I'm a binger. I love binging and watching shows into the late night. If you told me that my grandma would have the ability to binge a show at all, I'd probably tell you you're lying, you don't know who I am.
I love this.
Leave.
I love this.
I was like, so do we want to take a break? She looked at me and she's like, why? There's another episode. we have more to watch. And I was like, so we're sitting down, great. And then we finished everything and I was like, well, dang it. I'm a fan now. And I think I literally became just an absolute fangirl the next moment you saw me on set.
When you came back to Texas, you were going up to the actors like, you're Andrew, you're awesome. Like you were treating
It's so weird because I knew them now. I knew them on a first name basis beforehand. I was like, oh, hey, no, what's going on? And now I'm like, no, I know. And I was like, Paris, like, what are you, you're so great as Matthew. And it was a really weird feeling. I felt like a bit of a silly fella. And I just, even now, sometimes I feel like I'm a bit out of my depth.
What I'm curious about is how you feel, because you've been watching, no doubt, the reaction to season 2 and how the show is, just since we filmed, has almost doubled in popularity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been watching, though, people asking about Judas. When is Judas coming? Is Judas coming? And
we were filming, I believe, in February, the Sermon on the Mount. And there was everybody went outside to meet everybody.
Oh yeah, he still would have been.
All the actors went out to meet the fans just to say hi.
Yeah.
I wonder if he went.
Out in the tent. Because
I
had to.
I'm not going out there.
I was walking and there was a lot of people, so I was like, I was already like freaking out. But I hid in the tent, and then just like Noah's doing his awesome speech to everybody, thanking everybody, and then just out of the corner of my ear, I just hear, Judas!
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, and then even the rest of the cast came in and was like, so did you hear that? And I was like, hear what?
Yeah.
Oh.
Feigning ignorance, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Someone shouted.
I'm not here.
Because so many people were just really have been so passionate about, all right, we've got 11 disciples now.
Yeah.
That means Judas is coming. How are they going to treat us?
Allah now is like sad as
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how has that been for you, knowing
Wow.
I mean, does it feel like pressure, or have you kind of surrendered that a little bit?
Not gonna lie, Dallas, it's absolutely terrifying in the most surreal way. As a performer, I've come to terms with it. It's not. It comes with the territory. So I'm not like actually scared. I actually didn't think about it much, mostly because I very much like to focus on the work. Whenever it comes to like, I love my job, and I love just like, if I have anything to worry about, I just push it aside and I focus on my work. But when I'm done working, I end up going to lunch, and then I talk to the castmates, and they're like, "Oh, buddy, you're not ready," and they just keep reminding me of the impending doom that I face. And so that's been nice. But genuinely, I'm
But playing Judas, what a role to take on. That is such a responsibility. And as I was saying earlier, it's definitely not a one-dimensional character at all. There's so many layers to it, so much responsibility, and I do pray and hope that he pulls it off. And not just pulls it off, but because there's no pulling off a person that's already existed and, you know, all of that stuff. But just the performance, I really do hope that he digs so much into it. Not so much so that he is, you know, consumed with it and, you know, method acting, because that's scary. But really just takes the time to try and, like, read scripture and different accounts of Judas and all of this stuff, because it's such a rich and deep character. So yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with him in the future episodes.
I'm actually very looking forward to it. I really hope that I give a performance that the fans will really enjoy, and I just want to give them like a sense of Judas and like a setup of what's to come. Like I'm really excited for them to see it.
Well, you're so likable on screen.
Oh, jeez, you mean it?
Until just now.
Crap.
But we went through a lot when we were first setting up the show of like, how are we going to handle the Judas thing? Because it's what's on everyone's mind. And how do you create a character where the moment they come on screen, everyone's thinking, that's the one who makes everything horrible.
Yeah.
They did such a good job of introducing him, though. I don't think if they did it any other way, it would have done it justice. The way that they introduced him so casually, so genuinely, and, just the way that they introduced him, meshing with the other characters and really getting a good first impression. Even I had a great first impression of him. I even thought the guy that was with him, his partner in the sales role that he was playing, I thought he was one to look out for. But then when it turned out that he was Judas, I was like, oh my goodness, this is kind of the way that we need to be thinking about deception and just evil and things like that, because things aren't always as they seem. As it says in Scripture, the devil disguises himself as an angel of light. So not even the fact that he thought he was deceiving people, Judas's character himself, but the way that evil can be deceived, can be distorted to look like light, and the way that, first impressions aren't always the lasting effect. So it's really interesting to see the way that they've introduced him so subtly and casually, because we already know the end. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
He's the bad guy immediately. And then we're going to follow this guy for 5 seasons. How do we do that in a way that where every time he's on screen, people aren't thinking, yeah, but...
Ew.
Yeah, or yeah, you're doing something nice, but we know who you are. And so we knew going into it, we had to write it in a way to where the future was unknown. We just have to write it as a human being for whom the future is unknown. And we have to cast it in a way that it's someone who has a healthy approach to this character, so where you're not playing the end the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so excited.
That is such a good way that Dallas just said it, so that you're not playing the end, because, that's what I was saying earlier. I'm glad that they're not doing the whole thing where he's bad from the start, because we all have parts of us that are, more positive or more negative than other parts, but that doesn't define us from the beginning. So it's quite interesting the way that he's talked about not defining him as his ending from the beginning. I really like that, and I think that the direction and the the way that this show is directed from this point onwards, it's going to be so essential and important to the character progression and development of Judas, especially because you don't want it to be the Judas show from now on and people just like laser focused on what Judas is doing, because there's so much more richness to the ministry of Jesus than the one who betrayed him.
For the next few seasons to explore the role with you, I'm so excited with who we chose to play this role. I am so excited about how the show is growing to the point where you are someone who is going to be, I'm not overstating this, but you're going to be known around the world as the Judas. And I know that you are God's man for this role, because...
It's like how the guy that played Jesus in The Passion of Christ, he's now known as the Jesus character, kind of. Like, I know that was quite some time after he filmed that, even when he was named and casted to do that. Like, I think he was even blackballed from the industry or something like that. Like, I read that it's just been really hard to find jobs, and once you play something biblical in a way that is pro-gospel, then it's quite difficult to find your way back into Hollywood. And that's why I'm so glad that this media, The Chosen, is not part of Hollywood, and it's quite independent, and it's crowdfunded. And I think that's such a positive of it, that it's not influenced or, you know, blackballed by the industry just because of the pro-gospel connotations of the show. So I'm really interested to see the way that the actors go on from this show, and because, you know, it's so easy to get stuck in one character, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the way that they go on with their careers after this show.
My wife, it was on her heart and mind leading up to it. The moment you auditioned, it was crystal clear. And you know, I know that we all face these feelings of, oh my gosh, this is a lot of pressure. Can I do this? And that's the place we should be, because we want to be in this kind of surrendered state of like, I don't know if I'm worthy or not. It doesn't. And all I can do is the best that I can, and let this show kind of take over from there, and let God do what He's going to do.
I think that's the best place to surrender, when you know it's at like the peak of just terror, when you're so uncertain of how it's going to go. That's the best time to just like kind of let faith have its purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Let God like.
Yeah, that is so true. Even before that, like, because, you know, as humans, we have our own plans, and it just reminded me of the verse where it says that man makes his plans, but God orders his steps, or something like that. And, you know, we can really truly make whatever plans we want. This character, that the actor that plays Judas, can plan all he wants, but God will order his steps and let what needs to be done happen. And God willing, God's will be done, and, you know, He will bring this character into fruition in a way that is honouring the gospel, and also bringing us a refreshing side to Judas that is not riding out the end from the beginning.
Kind of send you down that path. That's been honestly my like guiding like memento from the past year, of just continue doing good work. The good work will speak for itself. Everything else will take care of it. Like, the rest will be taken care of. And it's worked so far.
We try not to think about this too much, but what is it that you hope for from the fans now that you're on the team, now that they know who you are? What are you hoping for?
Oh, death threats. So many death threats.
What?
Do I give a P.O. box after this?
What?
I'm hoping. I just want to get one. I don't know where in my career. I might just be hoping for it, because I just want to get it framed. I want to just put it like right above my desktop and just like look at it every morning.
Just go, my work mattered to somebody.
I did
to
it,
the point
Mom.
where they wanted me dead.
They wanted me gone, man.
Oh, okay, now I see what he means. I thought he was genuinely wanting death threats. I was like, that's a bit strange. But I understand where, you know, I think there's a quote or something, I can't remember who it's by, but it says, if you hate a character for playing the bad guy, then they've acted well, or something like that, like they've done their job. And it's so true. Like, if you're, you know, if you're passive to a character and you're just really unbothered by their performance, and it's just kind of like, it's just another performance, another variation, then they've really not, you know, made you think, or, you know, triggered your senses enough to have a response to it. And as well as if they're, you know, totally different from what the character is meant to be or portrayed to be in Scripture, for example, in this case. So I really hope that He makes us go along that journey with Him, and even though we know there's going to be that betrayal, just taking us up to that point where we're truly invested will be quite interesting to see. The death threats was a bit extreme, but I can understand the perspective. He wants people to be fully invested into his performance.
Besides that, that's priority numero uno. I want to do this role so much justice. You made him an orphan. You made him want. You gave him all this ambition from the very beginning. It's not detrimental to his character, but it's the perfect building blocks. As an actor, you gave me so much to play with. And like I told you, the question that has been bugging me since I was a kid, because I've seen a lot of stories, they've always kind of been like, man, I can't wait to discover why he does it, along with everybody else. What is it? He loves him so much. What happens? Because That's the main thing. Everyone jumps to the end.
Yeah.
Everyone jump.
It's just like the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, like the way that they were tempted by the devil. It's always that temptation. So I think it's definitely going to be some kind of temptation that draws him away from God, draws him away from his fellowship with Jesus, because, you know, temptation is such a tricky thing, because it's not the actual sin itself, it's the precursor. So it's very much, as it said, it's tempting. It's not something that is abominable for us from the get-go. It's tempting. It's almost irresistible, and it's going to be interesting to see what that temptation is for him. Obviously in the Garden of Eden it was you know, knowledge that God has that you don't have, and it's being kept from you, and you know, you're ignorant and this and that, so have this fruit as, you know, this gateway into what is being kept from you. So it's that temptation of power and authority and being in the know. Whereas, you know, in Judas's case, I think the temptation is probably going to be more like, you know, something for himself, something that he thinks would be a good thing, but it's actually to his detriment. So I'm going to be quite interested to see how this develops and what that temptation is for him. That's just my insight, but I think it's going to be a temptation that draws him away, not some kind of physical manifestation of disobedience. It's going to be something tempting that, you know, takes him away from Jesus, not something that is so heinous that he just automatically does it.
Jumps to the spoilers. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, we've got a plan for it. We know why.
You know why. I'm still over here just waiting with everybody else.
The challenging but ultimately really fun and beautiful part will be getting to know Judas as a normal person before this happens.
Yeah.
And that's what hopefully a good show can do.
I mean, it's doing it pretty far. I mean, we're on the right track, hopefully.
Well, hopefully you can fit in and not screw it up.
Here's how.
Okay, so that is the end of today's reaction. I really hope that you enjoyed it, because I definitely did. It was so interesting to see the different perspectives of the actor who plays Judas. I'm gonna insert his name somewhere because I feel really bad for not knowing it, but I'm really excited to see how he portrays Judas. And as I've talked about in my deductions throughout the reaction, the way that they're gonna take his character and build some depth into it, build some character into it, and really just, you know, take us along that journey instead of just echoing his destination throughout the series. So I'm quite interested to see the way that they develop his character and the way that he will form bonds with the other disciples and the relationship that he has with Jesus, because God already knows. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that Jesus interacts with him, especially coming up to the crucifixion, and the way that he handles their relationship. So it's going to be quite interesting, and yeah, I'll definitely catch you in my next reaction, my next video. Make sure to comment down below what you would like to see on this channel, any extras, behind the scenes of The Chosen, any bits that you've really enjoyed that you would like me to deduct and re-react to, and I would love to do those. And before you exit the video, please make sure to give it a like, comment something that you've enjoyed, and also subscribe to this channel. And I'll catch you in my next one. Stay blessed and bye.